A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, it is a period of life and death, for that is the natural way of things. Supported by Guillermo del Toro, Jorge R. Gutierrez brings forth a labor of love 14 years in the making. This is a tale of immortals making bets, a tale of strength and courage, and a tale of family, friendship, legacy, and love. Hello there, and welcome back to 6 Degrees of Star Wars, the podcast where we explore all the ways George Lucas's flagship franchise surrounds us, binds us, and penetrates us in the landscape of cinema. I'm your host, Sam Marchioni. Joining me today is Matt Madrano.
Well, here we are again.
And River Lane.
I'm not saying that Creep was a choice.
Greetings, I am IER60, Star Wars Retelling Connections. Point out, intersection, found. This is a degree 2. Diego Luna plays the lead role in Andor. Additional degrees include the following actors. Gray Griffin, who had voice roles in the 2003 Clone Wars series, Rebels, Detours, The Bad Batch, Resistance, Young Jedi Adventures, The Rise of Skywalker, Lego Star Wars, The Freemaker Adventures, Lego Star Wars Holiday Special, and Lego Star Wars All-Stars. Eric Bauza, who had voice roles in Lego Star Wars The Yoda Chronicles, Lego Star Wars Droid Tales, Lego Star Wars The Freemaker Adventures, and Resistance. Danny Trejo, who plays Rancor Keeper in The Book of Boba Fett, Ron Perlman, who voices Ga Nacht in the 2008 Clone Wars series, and Hector Elizondo, who voices Romar Adel in The Bad Batch. For additional detail, check out the episode entry under 6 Degrees of Star Wars.tumblr.com/sibling blogs. Additional source material found. This is a retelling of Mexican folklore and the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice.
Yep, this is our first degree too, and we have Diego Luna, star of Andor, which, yes, I know, I still haven't seen it. At this point, I'm just waiting for it to come up on the podcast naturally. Don't at me.
I mean, that sure is a choice.
I have only so many hours in the day. I kind of don't want to spend my time away from capitalist hellscape in fictional capitalist hellscape. So instead, let's go to fictional afterlife puppet world with the Book of Life. That was a great segue.
I mean, it could be worse.
Yeah,
Yep.
you could get bitten by 2 snakes and send you to the land of the dead.
Or just get one and get Sleeping Beauty.
So this was actually my first time watching this movie, and I have a side story I need to bring up for that. But first I want to know, did you guys know this movie, or was it a case of something being buried by Disney doing a much more popular, only tangentially similar thing?
No.
Yes.
I watched this movie, oh god, I was in high school. So it must have been like sophomore year, because I think I watched it like right after Rogue One came out, because I became fascinated by Cassian Andor and by extension Diego Luna. And so I did what I usually do, which is I tried to binge watch the filmography of actors I really like. I have gotten some great gems out of that, but I've gotten some serious duds. Ask me sometime about Oscar Isaac's filmography.
No me diga.
But when I found this, I was like, okay, this is going to be cute and fun. And I don't remember how I first watched it, but I deeply enjoyed it. I don't think I like fully grasped it, but I Love You Too Much did live in my head rent free for several days, and I had to lay on the floor for a little bit to process the fact that my type do be singing actors. And every time I get into an actor, 8 times out of 10, I find out they can sing. And I'm just like, what does this say about me as a person that I would be swayed by a guy with an acoustic guitar? And then I don't think about it too hard and I move on with my life.
I feel the same way with slapstick comedians.
That's very fair. But I watched this before Coco came out, and I don't think Coco had fully come into development because I remember the Tumblr discourse about them trying to trademark Dia de los Muertos and all that bullshit.
I think Coco first started getting developed in like 2010, and this was germinating from like 01. If my reading is correct, Jorge Gutierrez was going at this for a while.
Yeah. But before it became like an online presence, because you know how like sometimes Disney will pitch things and then they like don't come to fruition, or they like you get released concept sketches and sometimes they happen and sometimes they don't. I think this was in the process of development where they had officially kind of stuck it on a release radar. They were like, we're gonna aim for this to be here.
This wasn't a Disney thing though. This was a DreamWorks thing. Some people mistakenly believe it was a Disney thing. Not helped by the fact that it's now on Disney Plus thanks to the Fox merger. Yay!
It's always been a Fox thing.
Yeah, I know, but now it is a Disney thing because it is a Fox thing.
I'm just saying, DreamWorks was never involved, to my knowledge.
The thing I'm looking at says it was optioned by DreamWorks, and then it went to 20th Century Fox.
Okay.
That's entirely possible.
And now Disney has it because Disney had bought Fox.
Yeah, because we live in a capitalistic hellscape and we got rid of the Paramount laws.
Okay, then...
But anyway,
it must be true.
Yeah, I remember seeing this in like my sophomore year of high school, and it was not a film that like consumed my life and soul, but it was a movie that I like watched all the way through and I went, oh yeah, that was a good time, that was fun. And I sometimes don't need a movie to be more than that.
Okay, so Matt, what about you?
Then I'm gonna go the complete opposite of, I was very aware of this movie when it came out. You know, I grew up in suburban California, and you know, all of my friends had heard of this guy, and there was a show that came before this called El Tigre, The Adventures of Manny Rivera.
I did remember that.
Mm-hmm. Created by Gutierrez, and all of my friends were saying, oh, this guy, the El Tigre guy made a movie. The El Tigre guy made a movie. So I was incredibly aware of this. It was like the event of, you know, my little suburban town. I'm not going to say it was like, you know, a blockbuster, but everybody my age at the time had seen it. And I was already in my 20s.
That is cool. What frustrates me is that I didn't find out about this movie sooner. Like, it might have been on my radar a little bit from one of those like art posts about why does all of the animation give the women the round faces but the men are allowed to have the different weird faces? Because it's not just a Disney problem that all the women have the round face and the big guys and whatnot. But like, so when I was doing my master's program, one of the classes that I took was called Latin American and Latino Cinema. Of the films that we watched, there was Amores Perros, Beautiful, Coco, Cronos, Espinosa del Diablo, El Orfanato, El Laberinto del Fauna, The Three Burials of Melquiades Estradas, Roma, and Y Tu Mama Tambien. So, Iñárritu, Cuarón, Del Toro, one Spanish director, Del Toro sponsored, Tommy Lee Jones doing a movie with a script
from Guillermo Arriaga,
and then Coco. And at the time I was like, I'm sorry, you couldn't spring for like Un Mujer Fantástica or like En la Cama or any Latin America that isn't Mexico. But also, like, you went with Coco? over Book of Life. God damn it, Disney.
Yep.
Like, I don't think that this is, like, fully a thing of Disney copying or dueling a film. It's not, like, all the way to a Thief and a Cobbler versus Aladdin thing.
I was gonna say
But, like,
Ants versus A Bug Life, but that works too.
I try very hard to forget that Ants exists.
I would like to say the same.
Well, you bring up the Coco comparison, and I know when Coco came out, that of course that was a thing. We all know that was a thing, and I was watching it again today, and I don't think that was ever true.
I think their Venn diagram is so thin that it's not worth bringing them up as comparison points necessarily, but I do think you could probably do an interesting double feature with them.
There's plenty of shared cultural aesthetics just by virtue of the fact that they both take place around Dia de Muertos, and there's
Right.
the petals
But-
and the skeletons and the land of the remembered, and the idea of remembering the dead as an important thing.
But that feels like comparing Christmas movies.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's when you get to the part where there's generational trauma involving somebody in the family wanting to be a musician and he plays the guitar, and also there's a character voiced by one of the male leads from Y Tu Mama Tambien that you're starting to be like, it isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
In regards to the plot point thing, that is incredibly true.
I
Just
forgot that
so
Gael was
true.
in.
But yeah, regarding that plot point of, the musician having to be somebody else, so to speak, that's just incredibly true culturally. So it's like, I really can't fault it.
Yeah. I mean, that's like saying... No, I can't say it's like saying Aragon and Star Wars are the same thing, because Aragon is very much Star Wars fan fiction, but if I think of a comparison long enough, it'll come to me. But let's actually talk about this movie. I really, really wanted to like it. Aesthetically, I think it's freaking awesome. Like, I am obsessed with the designs for La Morte and Xibalba, but the characters, especially the human characters, I'm like, I feel like given how much time you had to write this movie, you could have done more with them, ?
I think for me, rewatching it today, my biggest problem with it is mostly Joaquin. Joaquin needed another rewriting pass. I don't know what would have fixed it, but he needed another rewrite pass.
I think Joaquin might have been better if he'd also been played by Freddie Prinze Jr. instead of Channing Tatum.
No, not necessarily.
I disagree, frankly. I kind of like it.
Basically, my overwhelming feelings about like Joaquin and Manolo and Maria is their dynamic is set up really solidly in the beginning, and when they're kids, it's great, it's cool, it's cute, love it very dearly. But when you get to the adult phases, like, I get what they're trying to go for, like the idea that like Maria was their glue and they never really had a reason. Like, Manolo and Joaquin both got pushed away from each other and they were sort of pried apart, and thus that friendship sort of deteriorated. And I don't love the plot point of men competing over a girl. Like, that's just a personal hang up I have. I have this thing that I don't love triangles. And this one, like, when it was going out of its way to be like, Manolo is the obvious answer, I was frustrated with it because I wanted these three to be good buddies and them to be friends. And Joaquin got those little moments where he was still like, yeah, there's another movie that should have ended in polyamory.
Yes!
Like, Joaquin gets these little moments of like, no, I'm still your friend. We're still good. We're still cool. Like, Maria's clearly shading him about talking about himself all night. And he still says at the soft at the door, he's like, you just think about it. And that's endearing. That's cute. But when the movie goes out of its way to try to be like, no, Manolo's the obvious answer to this love triangle, it does it at the detriment of Joaquin, which blows. It sucks, and I don't love it.
Well, speaking of somebody who doesn't hate love triangles,
Sorry, I don't mean to give you that judgmental look. I'm so sorry. That's a gut reaction. I've just never heard that said by somebody else.
I've seen worse.
Maybe that's fair.
That's the thing. I've thought about it as like, do these three need another pass? But I've seen this movie a few times, so I think if you apply it as literally one big fairy tale, you're easily able to overlook the flaws here, because
Yeah.
even like, we have the scene of like, it's implied that Joaquin would treat Maria like a trophy, sort of, or just a woman,
It
or
was a very Beauty and the Beast scene when he's leading up to the proposal. I'm like, so you're Gaston, but you're not a villain.
oh, totally. That's what the three girls were there for.
And that feels like it's muddying the water. Because, like, if you want the traditional fairy tale, either Joaquin needed to be a complete jackass the entire time and was never part of the main trio, or he needed to be still a good dude, but let Maria choose.
She does.
And have that be like a general concern, and have the pressure can still come from her father about needing to marry Joaquin to protect the town, but like vibes are weird. Vibes are weird, and I don't know what it is.
I mean, I do like the part where after Maria wakes up and she's like, where's Manolo? And it's all, oh, Manolo's dead. And then she asks Joaquin, if I marry you, will you stay in San Angel? And he's starting to be like, well, yeah, but I would do it anyway. And she doesn't let him finish. I'm like, I wish we had more of that. But now that we're also like talking about, like, we also could have had more. I think we could have had more to do with the choices that La Muerte and Xibalba have in picking each of them. Like, I don't know, maybe if the metal had been more of a corrupting thing on Joaquin rather than just his uh, Mario star or whatever.
Honestly, I would argue it is.
I would definitely say there is a draft of this story where that was the case, and someone went through an editing pass and said, that's not going to play well.
That's the thing. I don't think, like, you guys are thinking of it as like a corrupting force, the way the Ring in Lord of the Rings is a corrupting force. I always thought of it, yes, it's a corrupting force, but not in a bad guy Gaston type of way. Because when we look at Joaquin, the man's got an ego the size of Mexico. So it's not like he's a bad guy. He just knows he's basically Superman. And he's all like, Maria's going to be my Lois Lane. We're going to be awesome. And Manolo's just going to be around for the ride. So it's like, I never viewed him as a bad guy. I just like, he's basically the perfect guy, just not the perfect guy for her.
That falls under like the dueling ideology of everyone living in their parents' shadow, and parents trying to craft them into what they are supposed to be. Like, in spite of the fact that Joaquin's dad is dead, his shadow is what's crafting Manolo as much as Maria's father is, by trying to like pseudo adopt him into the mix or whatever. And so,
Although I don't think Joaquin's dad gets quite as much attention in that regard, even though Joaquin has the "we got some long shadows to escape, huh?" line. Like,
yeah,
we get a lot of Manolo's inner family life and the toxic masculinity dad, and then you go into the land of the remembered, and there's the Placido Domingo skeleton who sings opera like an angel.
Yeah.
Such a random cameo. I freaking love that. And then Joaquin, I don't know, maybe this movie could have been expanded a little more on Joaquin's end, because
Okay.
like, I know Manolo is the protagonist, but I feel like Joaquin could have gotten a little more time to explore his end of things.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt here. So, the thing is, the reason why I love this movie so much is because it's the first part of a story, and I know Gutierrez has done some interviews in the years since, as recently as say last year even, that the Book of Life is supposed to be a trilogy, with the first one being about Manolo, the sequel being about Joaquin. So, okay, the story might has its flaws regarding Joaquin, but there was a sequel that was never made. So it's like there's still more story to tell here. it's just a trilogy that never happened.
Well, shit.
Which I understand that, but at the other hand, the good thing about any good trilogy is that to some extent, each movie should be able to stand up a little bit on its own. Like, there's a reason that A New Hope is my favorite Star Wars movie, is because, like, as much as it is the start of a trilogy, and you can continue playing in this universe until the heat death of the universe, source the current world we live in, if that had been all we had ever gotten in 1977, we would have had a complete movie. And it would have been a great time.
I don't disagree with that. And I do agree that, great parts of trilogies stand by themselves. But I just know that even in the movie that we do have, there's clearly more story to explore here, even without going into spin-off after spin-off.
Yeah, and even more than Joaquin, I definitely say that's true for Maria, because I hear you, Matt, when you say fairy tale logic, child logic, but at the same time, Maria, to me, was bringing all the worst of the not like other girls fairy tale heroine trope of, how dare you, I am not a possession to be owned, and also look at me, I can sword fight, I can do kung fu.
Yeah, that did come out of nowhere.
For me, Maria, like, I don't know if it was because I watched this movie first in, like, young high school, TM, which means that, like, any character that, like, gets thrown the N, like, if it's a character I watched in high school, the N-log label, as somebody who might have been a little N-loggy at that age, it kind of gets, like, brushed over. It's like, hey, they're kind of cool. But rewatching it today, it was more like, all I saw was some fusion of what Disney was trying to do with Esmeralda and a smattering of, like, honestly, like, Elizabeth Swann. And so, like, there's enough of a precedent there of characters I actually like where I'm like, okay, I'm willing to go with this for the sake of this one movie. So the M-Loggy thing, if it was there, did not bother me as egregiously as it could have.
Yeah, it's just we're not given enough time to go further into depth on that. Honestly, we spend more time with La Muerte and Xibalba and understand more about their characters than we do about Maria and her relationship with Manolo. Like, I think we're just supposed to intuit that she likes him because he's the romantic one and he's true to himself, while Joaquin is doing all the things he thinks she'll like, or he thinks will make her like him.
Well, I mean, look at the bullfight when she comes back into town. That's all that is. That is just like, he writes her name in the sand, and she's like, I'm into that. He spares the bull. I'm into that. So it's like, it's that thing that's just saying, like, it's not, I don't think she was given a reason to dislike him.
Yeah.
You get the general sense that she has days where she wants to whack Joaquin upside the head with a baseball bat. With affection, because they're friends, and sometimes you want to whack your friends upside the head with a baseball bat. It's just, listen, Sam, if you don't have a friend where you...
This is why I keep you on the other side of the internet.
If there isn't a friend you want to whack upside the head with a baseball bat, you're wrong. So, like, there are days where she wants to whack Joaquin upside the head with a baseball bat. She's never had a day where she's wanted to completely whack Manolo upside the head with a baseball bat.
Yell at him, maybe, but...
Maybe yell at him, maybe whack him with a Yellow Pages book, because, phone book doesn't leave bruises. But I can't take credit for that, I stole it from John Mulaney. But the you get the general sense where she's never wanted to do anything more firm than to quote the Turf Wizard movies. That scene in the one movie where she only likes you because you think you're the chosen one, but I am the chosen one, and then Hermione like whacks him with the book. If you're gonna marry somebody, you want to marry someone you've never wanted to beat upside the head with a baseball bat, even if you love them.
You're making me wonder now about some relationships I've seen in my life and whether or not I should say anything.
Well, let's save those for off the mic, shall we?
Yeah, let's not have a hot mic in those discussions. Speaking of that bullfighting scene, I've had this thought since I first watched this movie as a high schooler, and I don't know if it's because I'm not a fan of Radiohead, or I'm not a fan of the song Creep, or the song Creep has just been so overused that I have complete emotional desensitivity to it, and I've only used it as a punchline. But what the fuck am I supposed to make of that scene? I know it's supposed to be this sincere, heartfelt ballad about not feeling like you belong anywhere, but Jesus Christ, why did you pick Radiohead's Creep?
I actually have an answer to that.
Oh God, what is the answer?
Well, Gutierrez, who's a very active presence on Twitter at Mexopolis, he's a good follow, has answered this question with 3 specific points. Number 1, I first heard it in 1993 in Tijuana and I really connected. I don't belong here. I wish I was special. I'm a weirdo. It was my anthem as a 17-year-old outsider wannabe artist. I've been a huge fan ever since. Number 2, mid 2000s, as I was writing the script in, I am about to butcher this, I am so sorry, Garibaldi, Mexico City, and I heard a teen mariachi play and sing Creep by himself. By the time the kid was finished, the whole cantina erupted in cheers. I was in tears. And 3, I very naively wrote the song into the script and we bordered it. I wrote Radiohead and I sent them the secret cut to temp scratch. And I waited. The band somehow gave me permission. I couldn't believe it, and I will be forever thankful to Radiohead.
Okay, that's cute.
That's deeply sincerely endearing, but Jesus Christ.
So that's the thing. There are a bunch of pop songs littered throughout this movie. I'm so sexy, or do you think I'm sexy, Rod Stewart? Just a friend, Biz Marquee. You remember the commercials. The people remember the commercials.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you hear the guy talk about this movie even in the years since, and there's a pretty good commentary on the DVD.
Nice.
This just seems like every single choice that people could say, did you really have to make that choice? Was just like a massive, passionate answer to what he wanted to do. And honestly, I'll let it slip. I'm not the biggest fan of Radiohead. So I could go either way with Creep, but I was just like, if you wanted it so badly you wrote Radiohead personally, go for it.
I forgot this movie opened with I Will Wait, and it didn't completely clock that was what I was listening to until they got to the chorus, and I was like, oh shit, that is what that song is. And that was a funny experience to have in real time.
Yeah.
I Love You Too Much still bangs as much as it did when I was a sophomore in high school and being like, shit, am I a little in love with Diego Luna now?
The answer should be yes, and Diego Luna, please do another musical.
Yeah, the answer, dear
one that does not involve you pretending to be Michael Jackson.
Jesus Christ.
To be fair, that's Harmony Korine, and Harmony Korine is
a trip and a half.
Look, choices were made.
Choices have been made, yes. And it still bangs. And that's all that I needed to know coming into this movie. Was I was really nervous that song wouldn't bang as hard as I thought it did, and no, it does, and it's great.
I mean, maybe I'm a snob, maybe I'm a traditionalist, maybe I'm both, but I'm kind of the opinion that you can have jukebox musical or you can have musical with original songs, but if you're gonna do both, you have to be very, very, very good at it. And I'm not sure that this movie got there.
I think what jukebox songs they do use are used sparingly or for a gag. Like the Rod Stewart and the Biz Marquee are used for a gag by characters who are implied to be terrible musicians by the rest of the town. Or maybe not terrible musicians, but kind of losers to hang around. And so that's a gag. That's just a funny joke. The Creep is a choice, and again, that's a passion choice, sure, if it means something to you. But then, like, the two main emotional beats, other than Creep, are original songs. And they're used sparingly, like, they're, like, one of them is at the very beginning of the movie, the other one's at the really end of the movie, and the rest of it is just, like, either score or traditional music. I'm willing to give it a pass. It doesn't treat itself like a proper musical. It sort of treats itself like a time. It's just a fun gag. So I'm willing to give it the slide, but I'm not a TM musical snob.
I do like the bit where the nuns keep singing random, like, classical and Baroque music.
Yeah, none of that.
And also the luchador priest.
I do like that they just kind of sing their lines. That's kind of neat.
But going back to the songs, I think it was Paul Williams, I think, wrote most of the original songs. And for those of you who don't know, Paul Williams wrote very famously, almost legendarily, he wrote the Rainbow Connection.
Yeah, and like all the songs for Muppet Christmas Carol and like the songs for Phantom of the Paradise. Paul Williams is a good songwriter. I don't think any of us are disputing that.
So it's just like, when you follow a story like this, maybe I'm just naive, maybe I'm just an artist at heart, but you made your fairy tale and it kicks ass. I'm not gonna lie. And points forever.
I mean, it's a beautiful movie. And it's fascinating to watch it. I love watching all of the little seams of each of where the joints are in each of the figures.
Oh god, the animation's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely magical. Holy god.
And I love the fact that like even in the context of the story, Zabulba and Lamorta still get to keep their more like put together appearance as compared to like the doll like appearance that everybody else has, and how neat that is.
If I have one quibble about the animation, it's that some of the noses, particularly on the men, scare me. Like those ones that are like super long and they pinch off right where they connect to the face. I'm like, oh my god, what is that?
Can I just say, like, all the character designs, even because they do show some of these characters in 2D, but even in 3D would just make awesome tattoos.
Oh, absolutely.
I would be shocked if somebody out there does not have a Xibalba tattoo.
Oh yeah.
Everything about Xibalba is just A+.
My favorite little animation moment is when Xibalba shows up to Manolo, and you get that flash of lightning with his shadow, and then the second flash of lightning shows the skull on Manolo's face.
Yeah.
That was sick as hell. And I also love the fact that Xibalba's eyes are tiny skulls.
And Ron Perlman's doing a great job.
Even, like, just everybody is great. Kate Castillo is Xibalba. I mean, not Xibalba. La Muerte. Hector Elizondo is Manolo's father. Great. It's who's who of Latinx character actors, and I love it so much. I'll admit it. I'm biased as hell.
There is one person whose presence I kind of questioned. Why is Ice Cube here?
Because it was 2014, and if you needed a random voice, you got Ice Cube. He had a week off from SVU and decided that he was gonna do something silly and
No,
goofy.
that's Ice-T.
Okay, then fucking take your pick. Like, why wouldn't he be here?
I don't know, I guess Ice Cube just isn't who I would pick. I mean, I'm not saying he did a bad job, I'm just wondering what the casting process was for him getting here, because everybody else, like, either these are veterans or they're very well established or both, and then Ice Cube.
Well, I mean, Ice Cube's got, by this point, a decent chunk in the back catalog. Like, he's not quite in that space where he's more heard of as an actor than as a rapper, but you know, he has a back catalog prior to this. So maybe you just needed because like all of the gods have variations of voices. Maybe they just needed another voice to stand out or make sound enough different than the other two gods as well as the rest of the cast. And maybe it was a bit part and they were just like, we only need you for like a day and a half, and he had the time in his schedule. Like,
maybe, I don't know, I guess it kind of feels like his vibe went into the character, and as a result, like, his character feels kind of at odds with everybody else. Like, I think the idea of the Candlemaker is so freaking cool, but it feels very like we're trying to recapture Robin Williams as the genie.
Well, you could argue every studio, every movie, arguably, has been doing that for like the last 30 years.
I know, but there are times when it sticks out more than others, is what's bugging me about this one.
What I find interesting is if you look at the Candlemaker, you could see a lot of influences of, say, Max Fleischer cartoons, and of just this rubbery hose style. There's a pretty good documentary called, I can't remember, it's about cartoons in like 1910, and it talks about like the evolution of the cartoon style between primitive cartoons like Gertie the Dinosaur and what Disney was doing at the end of the 20s. And you could see a lot of predecessors for the rubbery hose type stuff. So, you know, you'd want a wild comedian for something like that. And, you know, Ice Cube fits the bill. I mean, you can easily go like wild and crazy. Like, the man is known for going like a little nuts with his performances.
I will say he's not in it long enough for the whole like his persona going into the character to become distracting. Like, he's not in it long enough for you to start going, oh, that's not a character, that's Ice Cube in a silly hat. You know, your mileage may vary, but for a bit part like this, I don't mind a little bit of bleed.
I mean, if we want to talk bit part of, oh, that's X in a silly hat, Cheech Marin. Cheech, I love you, but I always know it's you, Cheech. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's just a thing as you get older and you're like, yep, that sure is Cheech.
Shrug emoji. I think the only thing I've seen him in officially is The Lion King.
You never saw Oliver and Company?
No, I just know the soundtrack very well.
Check it out. Good time.
I feel like I'm being meaner to this movie than I want to be. Like, I actually watched it twice, and, like, I had a good time both times, but it's also, like, I don't know, maybe River infected me, because I'm like, you're good, but you could be great. Oh, no, no, no! Wonder Woman 1984, what the fuck are you doing in my brain? No, no!
What are you doing in my house? I want waffle fries.
Oh.
No, so first of all, I'm so sorry. But my opinions on this movie is everyone's doing their best. Everyone's doing a great job. This movie knows what it wants to be, and everyone's doing a great job with what this movie wants to be. Personal taste sometimes means that like what you want this movie to be is not exactly what you end up always loving. And like for me, again, like I said, I didn't need this movie to be great. It's a good time, and sometimes that's all I need a movie to be is a good time. Like Zoe Saldana is great as Maria. Channing Tatum, even though I'm like 60-40 on Channing Tatum 90% of the time, like I'm very much take him or leave him. He's okay in this. He's doing a good job in this. Diego Luna, light of my life, moon of my stars, doing a fantastic job. None of the bit parts bleed so badly that they have their fun and they're never like so distracting that you lose your mind over them, a la the gargoyles. Sorry to invoke them. They're probably in this podcast somewhere.
I actually don't mind the gargoyles that much, but in that, I see your point.
Yeah. And so this movie's plot is engaging and it's a good time, and it's, you know, like Matt said, if it's a traditional little fairy tale and that's all it is, fine, funky, fantastic. I didn't need this movie to be a lot, and I feel like I'm struggling to have coherent thoughts to say, partially because I was speed running it going into this, which means that I don't think I sat with it long enough to have like deep scientific thoughts about it, but I also don't think this is a movie you have deep scientific thoughts about. Like, you could probably do a deep thematic reading about the generational trauma of it all, TM, but we would be rehashing things that we've said about 1,001 other movies that have done this theme since then. And also, as a white McWhiterson, I also do not have the statistical cultural context for that specific brand of generational trauma.
Well, speaking of, as someone who does, it is 1,000% that. All my fellow Latino people know that very well. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. The first time I saw this, I was critical too. I was like, this, that, A, B, other things I don't want to mention because I'd like a career. But once you get on the fairy tale logic of it all, it's just so delightful.
I would say even less fairy tale logic and more parable logic. Because I feel like with parable logic...
Wait. Princess Bride.
Oh, 1,000%.
It even has the little kids and... Oh my god, I loved the part where they, like, basically interrupted it for their ship war.
Exactly. They even got, like, 4 little Fred Savages.
Yeah, truly iconic. What is a telling if not for little ship wars? I mean, people have made careers out of ship wars. Looking at you, every comic writer ever.
Oh boy. I don't have anything against her, but did it feel a little superfluous to you that Christina Applegate was the one voicing the tour guide rather than Kate Del Castillo? Because Ron Perlman was still voicing the creepy janitor guy.
No.
I don't think so, because she had a precedent in the movie of changing voices with her characters. Like, the old lady has a different voice, you know, that she turns into to offer Manolo the bread, or to ask for Manolo for the bread. Like, there's precedent for that. So the Christina Applegate character is just another voice.
Also, because it makes the reveal at the end sick as hell. Like, you suspect it. Going into this movie, you're kind of like, you know, like, it's going into this movie blind, you don't know it. Like, I didn't see it coming the first time I saw it, but like when you know what the movie is, you're like, oh no, I no, that's cute. Okay, that's fun.
Yeah, you do kind of have to know something up from the second she pulls the labyrinth bit of, it's full of openings, it's just you ain't seen them yet.
Yeah, and like the opening is a goddamn skull. Like,
yeah.
That ends up in like a warehouse of props, like it's like an opened up Raiders or something. But
and if I remember rightly, part of the opening of the temple does match her throne room in the Land of the Remembered.
You want to know what else the Land of the Remembered has, and that's kind of awesome? Guillermo del Toro. That thing where the guide is taking Manolo through the city and suddenly his wife arrives.
Yeah.
It's like, hi, honey. The wife is Guillermo del Toro.
Incredible. We love Guillermo. Shout out to him for real.
Yeah, I mean, he did get, like, top billing as producer, and, you know, it makes me wonder, like, because I love when Guillermo del Toro does animation. Like, his Pinocchio frickin' rocks.
Yeah, it does.
But it's also, like, now I'm thinking about, I'm wondering how much he would have been involved, like, in the sequels, and if those would have been more, like, distinctly Del Toro-y. Because it's always interesting to see the level of Del Toro that he puts into the projects, and when he's, like, supporting others. Because one of those movies that I mentioned from my Latin American cinema class, El Orfanato, it was clearly somebody trying to copy the formula that Del Toro did for both El Espinosa del Diablo and El Laberinto del Fauno. I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep using this. For those of you who don't know, that's The Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth.
Great movie.
I know you guys are smart. I know you know both titles, but some people only know Pan's Labyrinth as Pan's Labyrinth.
That's the thing. I don't really... you hear the interviews and you read the interviews of, like... I'm sure Del Toro was incredibly involved. I just don't think it was like...
I think he threw his weight around. I think he said, I'm going to kick this door open for you because that's how this movie is going to get made.
Well,
and
yeah.
If I tie my name to it, the movie gets made.
I don't think it's like in the way you see like some producers where it's like, it's going to be one big homage to me. Like there's like little like references to Del Toro, especially in Zimbabwe.
Oh yeah, The Land of the Forgotten. That's a Del Toro directed spin-off waiting to happen.
If anything, you just open the door to Gutierrez to give him like access to the right people.
I mean, maybe it is also Gutierrez. I don't know. I haven't seen Maya and the Three, which is what he followed this up with. I've heard that it's really good, but I don't have Netflix anymore, so oh well, guess I can't watch it.
Yeah, man. Like his animation style has always been really fascinating because I never watched El Tigre, but I do remember the promos for it. And like I think when I was like looking for this movie, when I was watching this movie the first time, I do remember having that little niggling in the back of my brain, like this does kind of look like that animated show I never watched, but like, you know, remembered it. And when I saw Maya and the Three, I was like, but I remember seeing trailers for it and going, oh yeah, that does look like you've got a style, my dude, and it's distinct and recognizable. 12 out of 10. Most artists would kill for that. And so like I would have been interested to see what those other two movies are, but also I'm content with just this one. Like I like this one. I don't think everything needs to be a big series. I think sometimes you get good one.
Yeah, franchises. Not everything needs to be a franchise, but, you know, in a world where shit is always getting canceled prematurely, you're like, okay, but it would have been nice to see what the artist's original planned ending was.
But it's not a franchise in, say, Star Wars turned into a franchise. The Lord strike me dead if I'm wrong. But, it's a franchise in the way the first 3 Lord of the Rings movies are a franchise and that they're one story. So it's like me as someone who's just like, I have to see how the story ends. I mourn every day that we didn't get those 2 movies, or we don't have them yet as of this recording.
Hey, Guillermo del Toro, when you're done with Frankenstein, maybe like you could do actual stop motion. Like, not that the computer animation wasn't super cool, but like I'd love to see what Jorge Gutierrez does with the kind of stop motion that they were doing for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Or let him at a Leica film.
Was Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio with Leica, or was it?
I don't
No,
think so.
I think it was a different department.
Because I always think about Leica as like the one stop motion studio that's still around.
Well, there's Artemin.
I don't know that one.
They do all the Wallace and Gromit stuff.
Oh, right. Animation's fucking beautiful.
Isn't it?
Just,
Truly iconic.
Also, we haven't really mentioned. I do love Manolo's mom. I love how, like,
she's so good.
She's so good, and I love how little shit she takes from your husband. It's like, you fucked up our boy. Look, he's got anxiety.
What part of me says that I wanted you to be a bullfighter, you dipshit?
I need to go hug my mother.
Okay, well, if you're going to go do that, then I guess it's time to ask. Is the Force with it?
The Force is with it. Definitely.
Legally speaking, I have to say it truly is with it.
Upon further reflection, yeah, I'll give it a soft Forces with it. I'd watch it again. I had fun with it. I'd show it to my nibblings or my spawn if I chose that way. So yeah, I'll say Forces with it.
Forces with
it. It is unanimous. Let's all delve into the dark side as we deal in absolutes, and we'll take a detour to the Land of the Forgotten, spend some time hanging out with Xibalba.
I think Xibalba should have a lightsaber as a treat.
I mean, did you see the parties going on in the Land of Remembered? Those look sick.
Oh yeah, those look fucking awesome. Maybe they can invite us to one if we can have something to plug for them.
Death, it comes first all.
I'm trying to segue here. No, Matt, do you have anything to plug?
I do, actually. You can find me as Matt the Movie Guy on Letterboxd in the links below. And you could also find me on my new, hopefully filled up soon, Instagram at Movie Guy Matt. And you could send me messages and see what I'm doing movie-wise.
River?
You can find me on Twitter at Dreams Rebel. We are into playoffs. We're getting close to playoff season in Hockey Babes. It's only going to get worse from here. You can also find me on WordPress at filmlion.wordpress.com, where I am trying to write more about television because that's where my interests lie, apparently. And if you want to find me on Letterboxd, I'm at Punk Skeleton. If you find this icon with a skeleton giving you the middle finger, that's me.
As for me, I will ask that you keep the spirit of Star Wars alive by supporting artists through the Entertainment Community Fund, and by taking action to support anti-imperial and anti-colonial movements across the globe, partially by using links provided below, and by taking action in your community. And you can find me on the wider internet as La Femme Fictionale, including on YouTube, Twitter, and Tumblr, where you can also find the blog for this show. Our theme music is provided by Refractory Period, the two girls' one-beat synth-pop sensation. You can follow them on Instagram at Refractory Period the band. To further support this podcast, please subscribe to us on your platform of choice, leave reviews, consider joining Patreon, and share with your friends to boost our visibility. And now it's time to turn to the Chance Cube to decide where our journey takes us next.
4!
All right, and 4 means that for 420, we are covering Inherent Vice.
Hell yeah!
No idea what I'm in for, but we'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, stay beautiful, and may the Force be with you.